A regular Tuesday night, the autumn rain hammered against the tall windows of Blackstone. Steakhouse's Claudia Rivers balanced 3 plates of perfectly cooked ribeye on her arms. Her feet ached in the mandatory black heels, and she could feel a headache forming behind her eyes after 7 straight hours on the floor. At 24 years old, she had learned to smile through the pain, to make small talk with customers who spent more on one meal than she earned in a week. "Table 17 needs water refills," barked Thomas, the floor manager, as she passed the kitchen entrance. Claudia nodded, depositing the steaks at table 9 before grabbing a pitcher. Table 17 was in the private dining section, which usually meant bigger tips, but also more demanding guests. She needed every dollar she could get. The emergency room bills from her younger brother Nathan's accident 3 months ago had piled up faster than she could pay them. At 19, Nathan had been working as a delivery driver when a drunk driver ran a red light. The surgeries had saved his life, but the medical debt was drowning them both. Their mother had passed away 2 years earlier from cancer, and their father had disappeared when Claudia was 12. It was just the two of them now. The man at table 17, Claudia pushed through the heavy wooden door into the private dining area, her professional smile firmly in place. A man sat alone at the corner table, his attention focused on his phone. Even from across the room, she could tell he was different from the usual crowd. His dark suit looked custom-made, probably Italian. His watch caught the candlelight. Definitely a Patek Philippe. But it was the way he carried himself that stood out, a quiet confidence that filled the space around him. "Good evening, sir. My name is Claudia, and I will be taking care of you tonight." She poured water into his glass with practiced ease. "Can I start you with something from the bar?" He looked up, and Claudia felt her breath catch. Derek Hammond had the kind of face you saw on magazine covers: sharp jaw, intelligent gray eyes, and dark hair with just a touch of silver at the temples. He was handsome in a way that made her suddenly aware of how tired she must look after her shift. "Alia," he repeated slowly, as if testing how her name felt. "That is a beautiful name." His voice was smooth, educated. "Please, sit down for a moment. I appreciate the offer, sir, but I really should not. My manager does not like us sitting with customers." She kept her tone polite but firm. She had dealt with enough wealthy men who thought their money bought them whatever they wanted. "Just 2 minutes," Derek said. There was something in his expression that was not predatory or entitled. He looked almost nervous. "I promise I am not trying to make you uncomfortable. I actually need to ask you something important," against her better judgment. Claudia glanced around the empty private room and perched on the edge of the chair across from him. 2 minutes, she agreed. An unusual business proposal. Derek set his phone face down on the table and leaned forward. "I am going to be direct because I do not have much time. I have a business dinner tomorrow night with investors from Tokyo. They are traditional, family-oriented people who value stability in their business partners. They have made it clear they'd prefer to work with established family men." Claudia felt her guard rising. "Okay, but I am not sure what that has to do with me." "I need someone to pretend to be my girlfriend for the evening," Derek said quickly. "Just for dinner, maybe for hours total. These investors are deciding whether to put $300 million into my company. I know this sounds strange, but I need someone intelligent who can hold a conversation, someone genuine. Not someone from my usual social circle who might have ulterior motives." Claudia stared at him, trying to process what he was asking. "You want to hire me to be your fake girlfriend? I am willing to pay you $75,000 for one evening." Derek pulled out a business card and slid it across the table. "I know it sounds crazy. I know you do not know me. But I am desperate, and something about you tells me I can trust you." $75,000. The number echoed in Claudia's mind. That was more than Nathan's outstanding medical bills. That was enough to let her quit this job and focus on finishing her nursing degree. That was enough to change everything. "How do you know I would not just take your money and disappear?" she asked carefully. Derek smiled, and it transformed his whole face. "Because you just asked that question instead of immediately saying yes. Someone dishonest would not think to warn me." "I need to think about it," Claudia said, though her heart was already racing with possibility. "Of course. But I need an answer by noon tomorrow. The dinner is at 7. Derek wrote something on the back of his card. That is my personal number. Call me either way. Wrestling with temptation, Claudia finished her shift in a daze. She pocketed Derek's card and tried to focus on her remaining tables, but her mind kept returning to his offer. $75,000 for one night of pretending. It seemed too good to be true, which usually meant it was. Back in her tiny apartment in Queens, she found Nathan sprawled on the couch, his legs still in a brace. He was supposed to be doing his physical therapy exercises, but instead he was watching some action movie with the volume too loud. "Hey, you were home early," he said, turning down the TV. "Bad night?" "Weird night," Claudia admitted. She kicked off her painful heels and collapsed into the armchair. "Some rich guy offered me money to pretend to be his girlfriend for a business dinner." Nathan's eyes widened. "Please tell me you said yes, Nathan. It could be dangerous." "I do not know this man. He could be anyone, or he could be exactly what he says he is, a desperate businessman who needs help." Nathan pulled himself into a sitting position, wincing at the movement. "Claudia, I see the bills you try to hide from me. I know you are working yourself to death because of my accident. If this guy is legit and he is offering that kind of money, maybe it is the break we need." Claudia looked at her brother, at the guilt in his young face. The accident had not been his fault, but he carried it like a weight. "Let me do some research first," she said finally. She spent the next 2 hours on her laptop, searching for everything she could find about Derek Hammond. He was exactly who he claimed to be, founder and CEO of Hammond Technologies, a company that developed medical software and equipment. Forbes estimated his net worth at over $2 billion. There were photos of him at charity events, articles about his innovations in healthcare technology, interviews where he talked about losing his father to a preventable medical error and dedicating his career to improving patient safety systems. Nothing suggested he was dangerous. In fact, everything pointed to him being exactly what he appeared, a successful, ethical businessman who found himself in an unusual situation. At 11:30 that night, Claudia picked up her phone and dialed the number on his card. "This is Derek," he answered on the second ring. "This is Claudia from the restaurant. I will do it, but I have conditions." "Name them." She could hear the relief in his voice. "First, everything stays professional. This is a business arrangement, nothing more. Second, I want the money transferred to my account before the dinner. Third, if at any point I feel uncomfortable or unsafe, I leave with no questions asked." "All agreed," Derek said immediately. "I will have my assistant send you the contract details tomorrow morning. We will meet at the hotel at 6 to go over everything before the investors arrive." "Claudia, thank you. You have no idea how much this helps." After she hung up, Claudia sat in the dark apartment and wondered what she had just agreed to. Preparation and transformation the next day passed in a blur. Derek's assistant, a friendly woman named Rachel, called at 9 in the morning with details. A car would pick Claudia up at 4. A stylist would meet her at the hotel to help her get ready. The money would be in her account by 3. When Claudia checked her bank balance at 3:15, she almost dropped her phone. $75,000 sat in her checking account, more money than she had ever seen in her life. It made everything feel suddenly, terrifyingly real. The car that arrived at 4 was a sleek black sedan with a driver who opened the door for her. Claudia clutched her small bag and tried not to feel like an imposter as they drove into Manhattan. The hotel was the kind of place she had only seen in movies: marble floors, crystal chandeliers, staff in tailored uniforms. Rachel met her in the lobby, all efficiency and warm smiles. "You must be Claudia. Come on, let's get you ready. We have 2 hours." The hotel suite where they prepared her was bigger than Claudia's entire apartment. The stylist, a man named Philippe, examined her with the critical eye of an artist. "Good bone structure," he announced. "Beautiful natural coloring. This will be easy." What followed was the most thorough makeover of Claudia's life. Her hair was washed, trimmed, and styled into soft waves. Her makeup was applied with precision, subtle but transforming. The dress that Rachel produced from a garment bag was a deep emerald green that somehow brought out the color of Claudia's hazel eyes. Derek has excellent taste, Felipe said approvingly as Claudia stared at herself in the mirror. She barely recognized the elegant woman looking back at her. Derek arrived at 6 sharp, wearing a perfectly tailored black suit. When he saw Claudia, he stopped in his tracks. "You look stunning," he said, and there was something in his voice that made her blush. "Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself." She tried to keep her tone light, professional. They sat down at the suite's dining table, and Derek pulled out a folder. "I want to brief you on the investors. Mr. and Mrs. Tanaka are in their 60s, very traditional. They have 3 grown children and 6 grandchildren. They love talking about family. Mr. Sato is their business advisor, sharp as a knife, and he will be watching us carefully." "What should I say about myself?" Claudia asked. "The truth, mostly. You are finishing your nursing degree. We can say we met at a hospital fundraiser 6 months ago. We bonded over healthcare, and it grew from there." Derek met her eyes. "The best lies are built on truth, Claudia. Just be yourself." The performance begins. The restaurant where they met the investors was on the top floor of the hotel. With floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Manhattan skyline, Claudia's heart pounded as they walked in, her hand resting lightly on Derek's arm. He had briefed her on basic etiquette, but nothing could quite prepare her for the moment. When 3 pairs of eyes turned to assess her, Mr. and Mrs. Tanaka were exactly as Derek had described, distinguished, formal, watching everything with keen intelligence. Mr. Sato was younger, perhaps 50, with sharp eyes that seemed to see straight through any pretense. Mr. and Mrs. Tanaka. "Mr. Sato, may I present my girlfriend? Claudia Rivers." Derek's hand rested warmly on the small of her back as he made the introduction. "It is an honor to meet you," Claudia said, bowing slightly as Derek had instructed. The Tanakas smiled with obvious approval. "Derek has spoken of you," Mrs. Tanaka said in careful English. "You are a nurse?" "A nursing student," Claudia corrected gently. "I will graduate next spring. I work at Mount Sinai Hospital 3 days a week while I finish my degree." "Caregiver," Mrs. Tanaka said with warm approval. "A noble profession." The dinner began, and Claudia found herself relaxing into the conversation. The Tanakas asked about her family, and she told them about Nathan, about their mother who had passed, about the importance of being there for each other. She saw Mrs. Tanaka's eyes soften with sympathy and recognition. "Family's everything," Mrs. Tanaka said firmly. "No amount of money or success matters without family." "I completely agree," Claudia replied honestly. "My brother is the most important person in my life. Everything I do is to build a better future for both of us." She caught Derek watching her with an expression she could not quite read. There was admiration there, but also something deeper, something that made her pulse quicken. Mr. Sato asked intelligent questions about healthcare systems and patient care. Claudia found herself discussing things she was genuinely passionate about: improving access to care, reducing medical errors, making healthcare more affordable. She forgot to be nervous, forgot this was supposed to be an act. "We have found a remarkable woman," Mr. Sato said to Derek during dessert. "She has substance and compassion. These are rare qualities." "I know," Derek said, and when his hand found hers under the table, the touch felt electric. "I am a very lucky man." When pretending feels surreal, the dinner ended with handshakes and bows. The Tanakas expressed their pleasure at meeting Claudia. Mr. Sato indicated that the investment discussion would move forward. As they said their goodbyes, Claudia felt the weight of the evening lifting from her shoulders. She had done it. She had played her part, and it had worked. But when they were alone in the elevator, heading back down to the lobby, something had shifted. The easy pretense of the dinner had left behind an uncomfortable tension. Derek stood close to her, close enough that she could smell his cologne, something subtle and expensive. "You were perfect," he said softly. "Better than I could have hoped." "Thank you, Claudia." "I just did what you paid me for," she replied, but the words felt hollow. The truth was, somewhere during that dinner, she had stopped acting. The connection she had felt with Derek, the way they had moved together through the evening, the moments when their eyes had met and something unspoken had passed between them. None of that had been fake. The elevator doors opened, but neither of them moved. Derek turned to face her fully. "Can I take you to dinner sometime? A real dinner, not a business arrangement." Just us. Claudia's heart hammered in her chest. This was dangerous territory. He was a billionaire, and she was a nursing student barely scraping by. They lived in completely different worlds. Getting involved would be foolish, reckless. I do not think that is a good idea, she said, even as every part of her wanted to say yes. Why not? Derek asked. There was no arrogance in his question, just genuine curiosity. Because you are you, and I am me. Because this was a business deal, and mixing business with personal is always a mistake. Because in a week, you will forget I exist, and I will go back to my normal life. What if I do not want to forget you exist? Derek stepped closer. What if I could not stop thinking about how you made me laugh tonight? How you talked about healthcare with more passion than most people in my field? How you looked at those investors with such genuine kindness? Derek, Claudia whispered, feeling her resolve weakening. One dinner, he said. No business. No pretending. Just two people getting to know each other. If you do not enjoy it, I will never bother you again. Claudia looked into his gray eyes and saw something that terrified her. Genuine interest, real connection, the possibility of something that could break her heart. But she also saw honesty, hope, and a loneliness that mirrored her own. One dinner, she heard herself say, but I choose the place, and you have to promise not to judge my world the way I am trying not to judge yours. Derek smiled, that same transforming smile from the restaurant. Deal, when are you free? I work tomorrow, but I am off on Thursday. Thursday it is. He pulled out his phone. Give me your number. I will text you so you have mine. As Claudia walked out of the hotel and climbed into the car that would take her home, she knew she had just made either the best or worst decision of her life. The line between pretending and reality had blurred, and she had no idea how to find her way back. Her phone buzzed with a text from Derek. Thank you again for tonight. You gave me something I did not expect. Hope that I could find someone who sees me, not just my money. Looking forward to Thursday, Claudia smiled despite herself, her thumb hovering over the reply button. Finally, she typed, See you Thursday. And Derek? Tonight was not as hard to pretend as I thought it would be. She hit send before she could second-guess herself, then leaned her head against the car window and watched the city lights blur past. Wondering what she had just set in motion? Thursday evening, Claudia changed her outfit 3 times, before settling on dark jeans and a simple cream sweater. She had told Derek she would choose the restaurant, and she meant it. If he wanted to see her real world, then he would get exactly that. She texted him the address of Mario's, a small Italian place in her neighborhood, where the pasta was homemade and the prices were reasonable. Her phone buzzed almost immediately. Perfect. Picking you up at 7? I can meet you there, she typed back. Claudia, I am taking you on a date. Let me do this properly. She smiled, despite her nerves, and sent back the address of her apartment building. Nathan whistled when he saw her come out of her bedroom. You look great. This is really happening, huh? It is just dinner, Claudia said, grabbing her jacket. One dinner with someone I will probably never see again after tonight. Right, Nathan said with a knowing grin. That is why you have changed clothes 4 times and checked your hair in every reflective surface in this apartment. Before Claudia could respond, her phone buzzed. I am downstairs. Her stomach flipped. Wish me luck. You do not need luck, Nathan called after her. You need to stop overthinking and just enjoy yourself for once. Derek was waiting outside his car, and Claudia felt her breath catch. He was not wearing a suit tonight. Instead, he had on jeans that fit him perfectly and a dark blue Henley that made his eyes look even more striking. He looked younger, more relaxed, more real. You look beautiful, he said, opening the car door for her. You look different, Claudia replied. More like a regular person. Derek laughed as he walked around to the driver's side. I am a regular person, Claudia. I just happen to have a complicated job. The drive to Mario's took 15 minutes. Derek asked about her week, about Nathan's recovery, about her classes. Claudia found herself relaxing, answering his questions honestly. There was something about the way he listened, really listened. It made her feel heard in a way she rarely experienced. A different kind of evening. Mario's was busy. as it always was on Thursday nights. The owner, an elderly Italian man who had known Claudia since she was a child, greeted her with enthusiasm. "Claudia, my dear, and you brought a friend. Come, come, I have the best table for you." He led them to a corner booth with red checkered tablecloths and candles stuck in old wine bottles. It was nothing like the elegant restaurant where they had dined with the investors. But Derek seemed genuinely delighted. "This place is amazing," he said, looking around at the family photos on the walls, the hanging garlic braids, the warmth of it all. "How did you find it?" "I grew up 3 blocks from here," Claudia explained. "Mario gave my mom a job when she first came to New York. He is like family to us." Mario himself brought them bread and olive oil, refusing to give them menus. "I know what you need," he declared. "Trust Mario." After he left, Derek leaned back and smiled. "So this is your world." "It's my world," Claudia confirmed. "It is not fancy, but it is real." "Real is better," Derek said quietly. "I have had enough fancy to last a lifetime." The food that Mario brought was simple, but perfect. Fresh pasta with marinara sauce made from tomatoes grown in his own garden, garlic bread that was crispy on the outside and soft inside, a bottle of house wine that probably cost less than an appetizer at the hotel restaurant. "Tell me about your company," Claudia said, twirling pasta on her fork. "Not the business part. Tell me why you started it." Derek set down his wine glass, his expression growing serious. "My father died when I was 23. He went into the hospital for routine surgery, something that should have been simple. But there was a medication error. Someone gave him the wrong dose of a blood thinner, and he bled out before anyone realized what was happening." "Derek, I am so sorry." Claudia reached across the table and touched his hand without thinking. "The worst part was that it was preventable," Derek continued. "If the hospital had better systems, better software to catch drug interactions and dosing errors, he would still be alive. So I spent the next 10 years building those systems. Everything my company does is designed to prevent the kind of mistake that killed my father." Claudia felt tears pricking her eyes. "That is why you care so much about healthcare." "It is personal," Derek agreed. "Every patient whose life our software saves, it feels like honoring my father's memory." He turned his hand over, lacing his fingers with hers. "When you talked about healthcare at dinner the other night, I could tell it was personal for you too." "My mom," Claudia said softly. "She had cancer. Stage 4, by the time they caught it because she could not afford regular checkups. She worked 3 jobs to support us after my dad left, and she never took care of herself. By the time she finally went to a doctor, it was too late. And now you are becoming a nurse to help people like her. To help people who fall through the cracks," Claudia confirmed. "The ones who cannot afford care, who do not know how to navigate the system, who need someone to fight for them." Derek squeezed her hand. "You are remarkable, Claudia Rivers." "I'm just trying to make a difference," she said. But she could feel herself blushing under his intense gaze. Letting down walls after dinner, Derek suggested a walk. The autumn air was crisp but not cold, and the streets of Claudia's neighborhood were alive with activity. They passed bodegas with fruit stands spilling onto the sidewalk, children playing in small parks, neighbors calling to each other in Spanish and English and a dozen other languages. "I grew up about 30 blocks from here," Derek said, surprising her. "Before the money? Before everything changed. My dad had a small electronics repair shop. I used to sit in the back and watch him fix things, learning how everything worked." "What changed?" Claudia asked. "He invented a specialized circuit board that made computers run faster. Sold the patent to a major tech company for $5 million. Suddenly, we went from a tiny apartment to a house in the suburbs, from public school to private academy. My whole world shifted overnight. That must have been difficult." "It was confusing," Derek admitted. "I went from being the kid who fixed broken radios to the kid whose dad had money. People treated me differently. I never knew if someone wanted to be my friend because they liked me or because of what I could do for them." Claudia understood then why he had chosen her for the business dinner. He needed someone who had no agenda, someone who existed outside his usual circles. "Is that why you never married?" she asked boldly. Derek smiled. "Direct question. I like that." They'd reached a small park with benches overlooking the East River. He led her to one, and they sat down. I was engaged once, about 5 years ago. Jennifer. She came from the right family, said all the right things, fit perfectly into my world. What happened? I overheard her talking to her mother 3 weeks before the wedding, Derek said, his voice flat. She was complaining about how boring I was, how the only good thing about marrying me was the lifestyle. She was already planning which of my friends she would have an affair with. Derek, that is awful. It taught me an important lesson, he said. Most people in my world are playing a game. They want access, status, money. Finding someone genuine feels impossible. He turned to look at her. Until I met a nursing student who hesitated before taking $75,000 because she was worried. It might not be ethical. Claudia laughed softly. I did hesitate, did I not? You did, and that is when I knew you were different. Derek reached up and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering on her cheek. Can I be honest with you? Please. I have not stopped thinking about you since Tuesday night. Not about how well the dinner went. Not about the investment. About you. The way you laughed at Mr. Tanaka's jokes. The way you talked about your brother with such love. The way you looked at me when you thought I was not paying attention. Claudia's heart was racing. Derek, I am not Jennifer. I am not from your world. I do not know the rules of that game everyone plays. Good, he said firmly. I do not want someone who knows how to play the game. I want someone real. Someone who challenges me. Someone who reminds me why I started all of this in the first place. He leaned in slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. But Claudia did not pull away. When his lips met hers, it felt like something inside her chest cracked open. The kiss was gentle at first, questioning, then deeper as she responded, her hands finding their way to his shoulders. His hair. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. Wow, Claudia whispered. Yeah, Derek agreed, resting his forehead against hers. Wow, welcome to his world. The next 3 weeks passed in a whirlwind. Derek and Claudia saw each other every chance they could. He came to her apartment and met Nathan properly, bringing a state-of-the-art gaming system that had Nathan grinning for days. She went to his penthouse overlooking Central Park and tried not to feel overwhelmed by the sheer luxury of it all. They found a rhythm that worked for them. Coffee dates between her shifts at the hospital. Late-night phone calls when he traveled for business. Stolen hours in the middle of busy weeks when they could just be together. But the real test came when Derek invited her to a charity gala for medical research. It is important to me, he explained. I sit on the board. But more than that, I want you there. I want to share this part of my life with you. Claudia knew what he was really saying. He wanted to introduce her to his world, to the people in his circles. She agreed, even though the thought terrified her. Derek sent a stylist to her apartment again. This time Claudia insisted on having some say in what she wore. They compromised on a deep burgundy gown that was elegant without being ostentatious. With her hair in a simple updo that she could actually recognize as her own style, the gala was at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And Claudia felt like she was walking into a different universe. Women in designer gowns worth more than a year of her tuition. Men in tuxedos that probably required appointments months in advance. Champagne flowing freely and enough food to feed her entire neighborhood. Derek kept her close, his hand warm and reassuring on her back. He introduced her to colleagues and friends, always with pride in his voice. This is Claudia Rivers, my girlfriend. She is finishing her nursing degree and works at Mount Sinai. Most people were polite. Some were genuinely interested in her work. But Claudia could feel the assessments happening, the subtle once-overs, the questions hidden behind pleasant smiles. Who was this girl who had captured Derek Hammond's attention? The first cracks appeared. The trouble started when they ran into Jennifer. Derek's ex-fiancée was stunning in a silver gown that probably cost more than Claudia's car. She was with a group of equally polished women, and her eyes lit up with predatory interest when she saw Derek. "Derek, darling," Jennifer purred, air kissing both his cheeks. It has been ages. And who is this? Jennifer, this is Claudia, my girlfriend. Claudia, this is Jennifer Ashford. Derek's little nursing student, Jennifer said, her smile not reaching her eyes. How refreshing that Derek is doing charity work, even in his personal life. Claudia felt the barb hit home, but she kept her expression neutral. Actually, I am paying for my own education and building my own career. No charity required, of course, Jennifer said smoothly. How independent. Derek always did have a thing for fixer-uppers. She turned her attention back to Derek, effectively dismissing Claudia. We need to talk about the hospital board meeting next month. Your mother has some concerns about the new pediatric wing proposal. My mother can call me herself if she has concerns, Derek said coolly. She would if you returned her calls, Jennifer replied. She's worried about you, Derek. We all are. This phase you are going through, dating outside your usual circle, it has people talking. Let them talk, Derek said, his voice hardening in a way Claudia had never heard before. My personal life is none of their business. Everything about you is their business, darling. You are Derek Hammond. Your choices reflect on the company, on the foundation, on all of us who depend on you to maintain certain standards. Jennifer's gaze flickered to Claudia. No offense, dear. I am sure you are very nice. But Derek has responsibilities that go beyond his personal happiness. Derek took Claudia's hand firmly. Excuse us, Jennifer. We have other people to see. As they walked away, Claudia could feel her chest tightening. Derek, maybe she has a point. About what? He sounded angry, but not at her. About us being from different worlds. About your responsibilities. Derek stopped walking and turned to face her. They were in a quiet corner near the Egyptian wing, away from the main crowd. Claudia, do not let Jennifer get in your head. She is bitter that I moved on. Is she wrong, though? Claudia asked quietly. Your mother has not returned my calls to set up a meeting. I see how people look at me here. I am not one of them, Derek. I will never be one of them. I do not want you to be one of them, Derek said urgently. That is the whole point. You are real, Claudia. You care about things that matter. These people, most of them are playing a game. You are living a life. But it is your life too, Claudia pointed out. This world, these people, the expectations. I cannot ask you to give all that up for me. You are not asking. I am choosing. Da. Before Claudia could respond, a woman's voice called out. Derek, there you are. Patricia Hammond, Derek's mother, approached with the kind of presence that commanded attention. She was in her early 60s, perfectly preserved and dressed in a navy gown that screamed old money. Her eyes swept over Claudia with an assessment that lasted exactly 2 seconds before she dismissed her entirely. Mother, Derek said stiffly, I did not know you were coming tonight. I sit on 3 of the boards sponsoring this event, Patricia replied. Of course I am here. And you must be Claudia. It is a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Hammond, Claudia said, extending her hand. Patricia shook it briefly, her touch cool and impersonal. Derek, I need to speak with you privately. Foundation business. Anything you need to say, you can say in front of Claudia. Patricia's lips thinned. Very well. I have been hearing disturbing things about this relationship. People are talking, Derek. They question your judgment. A board member asked me yesterday if you were going through some kind of crisis. Because I am dating someone who works for a living. Derek's voice was dangerously quiet. Because you were dating someone completely inappropriate for your position, Patricia said bluntly. You need a partner who understands your world, who can navigate these circles, who brings something to the table beyond a pretty face and a sob story. That is enough. Derek's hand tightened around Claudia's, but the damage was done. Claudia felt like she had been slapped. I should go, she said quietly. No, Claudia, please. I will get a car home, she said, pulling her hand from his. Your mother is right. You should talk privately. Claudia, wait. She was already walking away, weaving through the crowd toward the exit. Behind her, she heard Derek's voice raised in anger, arguing with his mother. But Patricia's words echoed in her head. Inappropriate. Sob story. Brings nothing to the table. Maybe she had been fooling herself. Maybe Derek's world would never accept her. And maybe that would eventually poison what they had. Doubts and distance, Claudia did not answer Derek's calls that night. She texted him that she needed some space to think, then turned off her phone and cried into her pillow while Nathan sat helplessly outside her bedroom door. By morning, there were 17 missed calls and twice as many text messages. "Please talk to me." "I told her so." "Claudia, I do not care what anyone thinks. I only care about you. I am falling in love with you. Please do not shut me out." That last message made her cry all over again. She was falling in love with him too, and that was the problem. Love was not always enough to bridge the gaps between two different worlds. She went to work that day, exhausted and heartbroken. Her supervisor at the hospital noticed immediately. "Rough night?" Dr. Walsh asked kindly. "Boy trouble," Claudia admitted. "The billionaire." Word traveled fast in the small world of the hospital staff. "How did you know?" "Honey, when Derek Hammond personally funds a new patient safety system and specifically requests that you be part of the implementation team, people notice." Claudia's head snapped up. "What? You did not know?" Dr. Walsh looked surprised. "He made a $10 million donation to the hospital last week, specified that it goes toward updated software systems and training programs, and he asked that you be involved in the rollout, since you have frontline experience with current protocols." Claudia felt dizzy. Derek had not mentioned any of this. He had made a massive donation to her hospital, had specifically included her, and had not said a word. "When did this happen?" she asked. "The announcement went out yesterday morning. Check your email. There should be an invitation to the kickoff meeting next week." Claudia pulled out her phone with shaking hands. Sure enough, buried in her emails was a message from hospital administration about the Hammond Foundation's generous gift and the formation of an implementation committee that included her name. He had done this. While she was worried about not bringing anything to the table, he had found a way to include her in something meaningful, not as his girlfriend, but as a professional in her own right. She called him during her lunch break. He answered on the first ring. "Claudia, you donated $10 million to my hospital." "I donated to a hospital that does important work," he corrected. "The fact that you work there is just a bonus." "Derek, that is not how anyone else will see it." "I do not care how anyone else sees it," he said firmly. "I care about patient safety. I care about supporting healthcare workers who are trying to make a difference. And yes, I care about you." "Those things are not mutually exclusive." Claudia was quiet for a moment. "Your mother thinks I am using you." "My mother has a lot of opinions that I do not share. Jennifer thinks I am a phase you are going through. Jennifer is bitter and jealous." Derek sighed. "Claudia, please. Can we talk in person? I need to see you." She agreed to meet him that evening at a coffee shop halfway between the hospital and his office. When she arrived, he was already there, looking tired and worried. He stood when he saw her, and for a moment they just looked at each other. "I am sorry about my mother," Derek said finally. What she said was cruel and wrong. "But it was not entirely untrue," Claudia replied, sitting down. "Derek, I do not fit into your world. Last night proved that." "Then my world needs to change," he said intensely. "Claudia, I have spent my entire adult life trying to meet other people's expectations, building the right company, dating the right people, going to the right events, and I have been miserable. Then I met you, and for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe." "But for how long?" Claudia asked. "How long before the pressure gets to you? How long before you start resenting me for making your life more complicated?" "That is not going to happen. You do not know that." Derek reached across the table and took both her hands. "You are right. I do not know what the future holds. But I know that I would rather face an uncertain future with you than a certain one without you. I know that you make me want to be a better person. I know that when I am with you, I feel like the man my father raised me to be, not the figure my mother wants me to play." Claudia felt tears welling up. "I am scared, Derek. I am scared of losing myself in your world. I am scared of not being enough. I am scared of falling so completely in love with you that it breaks me when this ends." "What if it does not end?" Derek whispered. "What if this is just the beginning? Claudia wanted to believe him. She wanted it so desperately that it physically hurt. But the voices of doubt were loud. Jennifer's dismissiveness, Patricia's cruelty, the looks she had received at the gala. "I need time," she said finally. "Not to end things. Just to figure out how to do this without losing who I am." Derek nodded slowly, though she could see the pain in his eyes. "How much time?" "I do not know. A few weeks, maybe. To finish this semester, to focus on my work, to get some perspective. Can I still call you?" His voice was small, vulnerable, in a way she had never heard before. "Yes," she said, squeezing his hands. "Yes, you can call me." "And Derek, I am falling in love with you too. That is why this is so hard." He kissed her goodbye in the parking lot, a kiss that tasted like tears and hope and fear all mixed together. As Claudia drove home, she wondered if she had just made the biggest mistake of her life. 6 months later, the morning sun streamed through the windows of Claudia's new apartment as she adjusted her name badge. Claudia Rivers, RN, Mount Sinai Hospital. She had graduated 3 months ago and immediately been offered a position in the emergency department. The pay was better than she had dreamed possible. And for the first time in her life, she was not living paycheck to paycheck. Nathan was thriving too. His physical therapy had been successful, and he had enrolled in community college to study computer science. They had moved into a bigger 2-bedroom apartment in a safer neighborhood. And life had settled into a comfortable routine, but comfortable felt hollow without Derek. They had tried to stay in touch during those first few weeks of separation. Daily phone calls that gradually became weekly, then every few weeks, then barely at all. It was not anyone's fault. Derek was traveling constantly for business, and Claudia was drowning in her final semester and boards preparation. The distance that was supposed to give them perspective had instead created a gap too wide to cross the last time they had spoken. 2 months ago had been painful and awkward. They had both tried to sound upbeat, but the silences between words spoke louder than anything they said. When they hung up, Claudia knew it was probably over. "You okay?" Nathan asked, pouring himself coffee in the kitchen. At 20, he looked healthier and happier than he had in months. "Just thinking," Claudia replied, "about him again." She did not bother denying it. "I wonder if I made a mistake. If I let my fears ruin something that could have been amazing." "Maybe," Nathan said gently. "Or maybe you both needed that time to grow into who you were supposed to be. You are not the same person you were 6 months ago, Claudia. You are stronger, more confident. Maybe you needed to prove to yourself that you could make it on your own before you could really be with someone like him." Claudia smiled at her baby brother, who was apparently becoming wise. "When did you get so smart?" "I have always been smart. You were just too busy taking care of me to notice." An unexpected invitation that afternoon. Claudia received an email that made her heart stop. "Dear Ms. Rivers, you are cordially invited to the Hammond Foundation's Annual Healthcare Innovation Gala. This year's DC event will honor frontline healthcare workers who have made significant contributions to patient safety and care. Your supervisor, Dr. Walsh, has nominated you for your exceptional work implementing the new patient safety protocols at Mount Sinai Hospital. The event will take place on Saturday, October 15th, at the Natural History Museum. We hope you will join us for this special evening. Sincerely." The Hammond Foundation Board of Directors. Claudia read the email 3 times. Derek's foundation. Of course it was. But the nomination had come from Dr. Walsh, not Derek. This was legitimate recognition for her work, not some charity gesture. Her phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Walsh. "Did you get the invitation? You better say yes. This is a huge honor and you have earned it." Claudia typed back quickly. "Will Mr. Hammond be there?" "I assume so, since it is his foundation." "Is that a problem?" Was it a problem? Seeing Derek again after 6 months? Seeing him in that world she had run from? Claudia closed her eyes and made a decision. No problem. I would be honored to attend. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of anxiety and anticipation. Claudia bought a new dress, a deep sapphire blue that made her feel confident and professional. She had her hair done and practiced her speech a dozen times. If she was being honored for her work, she wanted to represent herself well. The night of the gala, Nathan insisted on taking pictures before she left. "You look amazing," he said. And Claudia, "If you see him tonight, do not let fear win again. Life is too short, and that man loved you." Loves, Claudia corrected softly. Present tense. "I do not think feelings like that just disappear." "Then maybe it is time to do something about it." The reunion, the Natural History Museum, was transformed into an elegant venue with soft lighting and flowers everywhere. Claudia arrived to find about 200 people already mingling. She recognized some faces from the hospital and felt herself relax slightly. This was her professional community, not just Derek's social circle. Dr. Walsh found her immediately. "Claudia, you look wonderful. Come meet some of the other honorees." For the next hour, Claudia mingled with nurses, doctors, and healthcare administrators who had been recognized for various innovations and contributions. She felt proud to be among them, proud of the work she had done. This was what she had worked so hard for, and it had nothing to do with Derek, except it did in a way. The program she had helped implement used software developed by Derek's company. The patient safety protocols she had helped refine were based on systems he had spent years perfecting. Even in his absence, he had been part of her journey. She was talking with a pediatric nurse from Boston when she felt it. That electric awareness that made the hair on the back of her neck stand up. She turned slowly and saw him. Derek stood near the entrance, scanning the crowd. He looked thinner than she remembered, and there were new lines around his eyes. But he was still devastatingly handsome in his tailored tuxedo. When his eyes found hers across the room, the world seemed to stop. He wove through the crowd toward her, never breaking eye contact. Claudia's heart hammered so hard she thought everyone must be able to hear it. "Claudia," he said when he reached her. Just her name, but the way he said it held 6 months of longing. "Derek." Her voice came out breathier than she intended. "Hi, hi." He smiled, and it was like sunshine after months of rain. "Congratulations on your nomination. Dr. Walsh tells me you have been doing incredible work."
Thank you.
"And thank you for the software systems. They have made a real difference. That is what they are designed to do." He glanced at the people around them, all watching with obvious interest. "Can we talk? Privately?" Claudia nodded, letting him guide her toward a quieter corridor lined with dinosaur exhibits. They stopped near a massive T-Rex skeleton, and the absurdity of the location made Claudia laugh nervously. "Romantic spot," she said. "I will take what I can get," Derek replied. Then, more seriously, "You look incredible. Different somehow. Graduated. Got my nursing license. Started my career. Grew up a little." Claudia met his eyes. "You look different too. Tired." "I have been tired," he admitted. "Claudia, these last 6 months have been the longest of my life. I threw myself into work, traveled constantly, tried to forget, but I could not forget you, Derek. No. Please let me finish." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she remembered so well. "You were right about needing time. I did not see it then, but you were right. I needed to figure out who I was outside of other people's expectations. I needed to prove to myself that I could choose my own path." "What did you choose?" Claudia asked softly. "I stepped back from the company. I am still CEO, but I promoted someone to handle daily operations. I told my mother I would not be attending social events just for appearances. I ended my engagement with the board positions that were more about prestige than purpose. I chose a life that has room for what actually matters. For work that means something. For people I love. For you, if you will have me." Claudia felt tears welling up. "I have spent 6 months proving to myself that I could make it on my own. That I did not need anyone's money or connections or help. I wanted to know that anything I achieved was mine, and now," Derek asked, hope and fear warring in his expression. "Now I know I can stand on my own 2 feet, Claudia said. "I know who I am and what I'm capable of. And I know that being strong enough to stand alone also means being strong enough to choose to stand beside someone." "Claudia, I love you," Derek said, his voice rough with emotion. "I have loved you since the night you hesitated before taking that money. I loved you when you challenged me to see beyond my world. I loved you when you walked away because you needed to find yourself. And I will love you for the rest of my life if you let me. Claudia stepped into his arms, and it felt like coming home. I love you too, she whispered. I never stopped. When he kissed her, it was different from before. There was no uncertainty, no fear, no question about whether this was real. It was a kiss between two people who had found themselves and chose to find each other again. Building. Something Nuthagala went on around them. But Claudia and Derek stayed in their quiet corridor, talking for hours. They shared everything that had happened in the 6 months apart. Derek told her about his realizations, about standing up to his mother, about restructuring his life. Claudia told him about graduation, about her new job, about the confidence she had built. I want to do this right this time, Derek said. No rushing, no pressure. I want to date you properly, get to know this new version of you, let you get to know me. Claudia agreed. But Derek, your mother, your world, those people who judged me before, they do not matter, he said firmly. But for what it is worth, I think you will find things different now. You are not a nursing student working as a waitress anymore. You are Claudia Rivers R., honored by the Hammond Foundation for your contributions to healthcare. You have your own credibility now. Should not need credibility for people to treat me with respect, Claudia pointed out.